Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Inside the Birds TV with Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. It is a situation here where Adam is still in Indianapolis at the Combine. I'm back home here in the Philadelphia area, but we already dropped our first of two kind of Combine notes type of podcast. It came out on Thursday morning, and then our next one will be out Monday morning, and we'll have even more information that we gleaned from being out in Indianapolis, as Adam is still out there, still gleaning information. So while we do that, we figured it would be a good time to do an Inside the Birds TV where we do an Ask ITB segment, try to answer some lingering questions that people have had for us. And of course, I'm sure we'll do a couple more down the line. So real quick, before we get started, Adam, just to let the people know, the Combine is infamous when we go out there for it being just like disgustingly cold, rainy, sleety, snowy, windy, blustery, everything. And I thought you and I were in like South Carolina for a couple of days while I was out there. It was 60 to 70 degrees. When I left, though, I saw it might have flurried. Is it back to normal Indianapolis now?
Yeah, it's whenever you work or live in people live in a downtown area where if you're out west, if you live in San Francisco, it's windy.
Mm-hmm.
You're obviously near the wharf area. If you ever shop there, if you're shopping, or if you live in that area, you know how cold it could be. And then downtown Philly, wherever you're listening in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff and I think on Wednesday it was in the mid to high 60s. Thursday was in the high 30s, low 40s, but it got windy. It was not windy on Wednesday. And then today's Friday. Tomorrow is going to be in the 70s. It's just unbelievable.
Oh, my God.
I know. And I asked the locals, I said, what's it really like? They said it's usually much colder. If you get lucky, it's in the low 50s. And climate change, whoever knows what it is. But
yeah,
I'm not arguing it. This is great.
No, it was great.
I wore I didn't wear a jacket on Wednesday. It was just kind of funny wearing a sweatshirt outside here. In fact, tomorrow, someone asked me if I wanted to play tennis. I didn't bring my tennis racket, but I still would probably wear a T-shirt if it's going to be that warm. I mean, you've been here a lot. You know, it's ridiculously cold sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, even with the temperature changing around the world, I would have never imagined it was going to be the 60s and 70s in Indianapolis in early March.
But you know what? It makes me think. I know they'll never do it because they have to have it inside. They're contracted to have the workouts inside. And Thursday night, the receivers as usual ran well. How great would it be?
Right.
Because pro days they're on the tracks at outdoor stadiums usually, not always, but they're usually on a track. And it'd be great if they could run them outside here. If the warm, whoever's working on Saturday, it'd be great to have it outdoors. But they won't. They have to have it inside.
Of course. All right, let's get to some Ask ITB questions. Yeah. What is the first question for us?
All right, this one is interesting. I don't know if we answered this or not because we had a bunch of leftover questions from a couple weeks ago, but I do want to address this because it's actually an important question for the running back position for the future. So Sandro Joseph or Joseph Sandro, I can't tell I'm not giving his email address out, but I can't tell Joseph I'm assuming it's Joseph Sandro.
Okay.
By the way he wrote it, because we don't, when you use the contact form, I can't tell. It shows the email address, but it doesn't. Sometimes you guys will use your name. It would be helpful if when you ask your question, to say what your name is so we could read it on here. But anyway, I'm guessing it's Joseph. So in your opinion, do you think Miles Sanders is a 3-down back? So I think he can be. And there's certainly been issues occasionally with pass protection. We know about the injury history. But when you look at Sanders now, he enters the final year of his rookie deal. This is year 4. Where's he at in your eyes? And based on some of what we've heard about him. And do we think he can be a 3rd-down back? So I'll start with you.
Well, yeah, I think he's a 3-down back because he has the skill set to be one, Adam. He's not a first and run down back, like a big bruiser that you would use, like Jordan Howard, right? And he's not a 3rd down catching back only because he hasn't demonstrated good enough hands yet to be someone like a Gio Bernard or James White, right? He's good enough at everything to be a 3-down back, but he's got to improve. You mentioned pass protection being one, but he's a home run hitter and he can catch the ball. In fact, one of the things I learned out in Indianapolis is some of his struggles are related to changes around him. For example, This is something I picked up that I thought was pretty interesting. He caught the ball, remember, pretty well as a rookie from Carson Wentz. Okay,
Yeah.
and Carson is 6'5" and throws with a elongated angle. I mean, the ball comes out, you see it clearly. Now he's catching passes from Jalen Hurts, who's clearly much shorter and doesn't always throw with the same arm angle. And so that's something that you have to adjust to, specifically when you're kind of running a route where your back is to the quarterback and then you make a quick turn to it. You're kind of expecting the ball to be in a certain spot. And it was one place with Carson, different place with Jalen based on many factors, size, Jalen always on the run, accuracy, all those things. A second thing and this is really fascinating. Just talking to people who watch tape, right, and know his running style. He got better as the season went on, as far as reading the holes, as opposed to earlier in the year. People say he dances too much, and that was really not the issue. Sometimes it's following the blocking scheme. And another time is when you receive the handoff, if your body isn't in the correct position, especially from the shotgun, if you're grabbing the ball too quick and your shoulder starts to point toward the offensive line, that means your eye vision is adjusted the wrong way. It's almost like you cut off the peripheral area because your body's a little turned. But if you receive that ball while you're more squared up to the offensive line, you see everything in front of you. You open up your vision. And the thought process was he made some changes there over the second half of the season to do a better job of making sure he had he didn't cut off any of his vision lanes. And that's why they thought he did a better job hitting the hole in the second half. Unfortunately, the injuries thing is something that can't be coached or controlled. And that's something he's going to have to battle. He has battled Adam, and that might ultimately keep him from being one of the best 3-down backs in the league, but he certainly has the skill set to be it.
Yeah, and I also think that you're going to see Gainwell not only be their number 2 back this coming season. They don't. I think we also heard they don't think Gainwell needs to put any weight on. They think he's got the fine weight. He just has to brush up with the technique in terms of blocking. But I do think Gainwell is going to be a guy you're going to see on 3rd down, no question. He's explosive. Sanders certainly could do some of that. And I think it's good. And we saw last season. Because once I guess it would be the Raider game, whatever week that was, week 7 or week 6, when they changed the offense completely, the mindset and the philosophy to go from a passing team, most attempts per game in the NFL after 6 weeks, to the most rushing attempts per game after that.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. I still can't believe it, but it's really good coaching. You got to give Sirianni credit. That takes quite a coach to check his ego and to be able to do that.
Right.
Because Hurts is such a major part of the running game, it's really Sanders, Gainwell, and Hurts. It's a 2 running back backfield plus with a quarterback mixed in, and they don't really use a 3rd back. So that's why, to me, Sanders' role could actually increase, because I don't think Boston Scott will come back. Why do I say that? It's highly unlikely they would tender him. We got the tenders, the projected tenders. They're just a little bit over $2.4 million for a 3rd-string running back. Sorry, that can't be. Like I said the last 2 shows, if you want to cut his pay and offer him some significantly less, maybe guarantee that salary, that's one thing. But unless they're willing to do that, he probably would walk. And you'd said on the last show, I think, on our last Inside the Birds that dropped Thursday, that you had heard that he would like to get a bigger role. Well, that's not going to happen. This staff loves Gainwell, the head coach in particular.
Yeah. Yes.
So and as you said a couple shows ago, you made a good point. It's not like they could wait for as long as they want to re-sign Jordan Howard. If they want to re-sign Jordan Howard, they could wait. And if he signs somewhere else, who cares? You can get someone to replace him. The guy's been a great story. I don't want to say anyone could run well in this offense, but look, the numbers are what they are, and they can find him back to size. It's not hard to do that.
I want to extend this conversation because people ask us, should the Eagles trade Miles Sanders? And this is something I addressed in my takeaways piece from the press conferences on InsideTheBirds.com that I wrote. And I don't think it makes any sense to trade Miles Sanders, even if you're not going to give him an extension, unless you are blown away by a team's deal. And what's the likelihood that a team is going to blow you away for Miles Sanders, who's been injury prone and has 1 year left on his deal and can walk after the following year? You're not going to give up a lot of draft capital for someone in that situation. So I think the best case scenario for the Eagles is you keep Miles Sanders, even if you don't plan to extend him. And he's a big part of your running game this year, and he helps you win games, which is good. And if he signs somewhere else in the offseason for a bit, if he signs a 3 or 4 year deal with somebody else, then he's going to help you in the comp pick category. You might even get a 4th round comp pick for him if he has a good enough year. So right now, if I'm Howie, I'm not taking anything less than a 4th round pick because I potentially could get that. And no one's probably going to give up higher than a 4th round for Miles Sanders right now. And then even if he's not, even if he doesn't have a great year and he's part of a committee with Kenny Gainwell and whether it's someone they bring in through free agency or Boston Scott or draft, whatever, then he's still helping you win games. So to me, it makes no sense to move Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
All right, next one. This is it's fun. It's funny that we've not really addressed this before. We don't really get into mock drafts, but this is an interesting question from M. Lara. We don't know what M. Lara's first name is, but this one's for Adam. Do any of these mock drafts even matter before free agency? Some of the position holes on the roster will be filled through free agency. Of course, we'll explain what Joe Douglas said. And actually, Howie Roseman made a great point on this, which we'll dive into. After free agency, we could start looking at the draft more accurately, giving some holes that are filled and are able to be target players that will need to fill the rest of these holes. Yes. So Roseman made a good point. Now, and Joe Douglas actually talked about this. Just because you fill a hole in free agency doesn't mean you can't get an upgrade in the draft. In fact, you should. Bill Polian told us this on Inside the Birds television over the last 2 years. You never pass up an upgrade. Mm-hmm. So yes, theoretically, for the draft, yes, you supplement through free agency. You build through the draft. Yes, that's theoretically what you should do. But the like for instance, no team's solving their quarterback issue through free agency unless you trade for quarterback. There's no one on the street that could help you. Although Mitch Trubisky could be a part of the solution, he could compete for it, but no one's coming in being the starter. So you clearly will fill that through the draft. Now, getting back to mock drafts, yes, I think what happens is whether these are these so-called draft experts or fans of a particular team do mocks, yes. When I would do mocks with my friend Tony Pauline, who I think is he's with Pro Football Network, I think.
Yeah.
Companies. We did them for about 10 years together, and the common mistake we made, and it took us so many years to learn, because being an amateur mock drafter, I didn't quite realize how little sometimes free agency will matter when it comes to the draft. Yes, immediately you try to fill, like if you're a team that doesn't have a starting guard, yeah, you might want to add a veteran, unless it's a high numbered guy. You still want to look through the draft for that. So, yeah, I think a lot of these are meaningless. You make a fair point. I don't think it's really, if you're in a mock draft. So, look, the fans love them. I get that. That's why, heck, Mel Kiper might do his 23 one, and Todd McShay might do one right after the draft for 23. Why? Because people love it. But it's totally meaningless. But it's fodder. It's kind of fun, I guess. I don't really look at them very much, to be honest with you.
No, I look at them from time to time, but I get turned off by them because, I mean, like, how many times do you see, especially this year, the Eagles mock to take a linebacker in the first round? And you know that it's such a slim percentage. And you wonder, I mean, some of these who are doing it are guys who've been doing draft analysts for years and years. And it's like, are you just thinking every year this is going to be the year? Or are you going by law of averages, or are you going by actual, good analysis, knowing the history of the team and where they go and what they do?
43 years.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I sort of look, and then I'm like, man, forget it.
Well, all right.
Look, that's why I like the way we do it. We do our mock draft maybe just a day or two, right?
Yeah,
we do our Inside the Birds one before it comes out, where we get all the information we can possibly get.
So I would add this. There's a friend of mine who's a draft analyst for, he's a guy most people would know. He calls me every year. He goes, "What do you think?" Like, he'll give me 2 or 3 teams he knows that I know. One of them is the Eagles. And he'll go, "What do you think of Philly?" And one year he did say linebacker. I said, "Dude, they're not doing this. They're just not." I told him the day before the 17 draft, I said, I think it's going to be McCaffrey. I said, "I'm probably going to be wrong about this, but all the information that I have, the intel." And I after the draft, I'd asked, and I said, we found out that was what they were going to do. I put it on our show when you and I hosted the draft show for the Fanatic. You put me on the spot, and I said running back, and I'm thinking, there's no way they're not going to do it. It'll make me look good if they do it, but it's a moot point because McCaffrey went way before they picked.
Right.
I just think I can't imagine Roseman would ever take a linebacker in the first round. I just don't. He just doesn't. They don't believe in that. They don't. And we'll have some stuff on Davion Taylor, by the way, for a show that drops Monday, which will be interesting.
Right.
But overall, they just think that through undrafted. Look, Roseman talked about T.J. Edwards on Wednesday, right? I think in his
He did mention him. He mentioned him as one of the young good linebackers that they
yeah.
have, and how
So
he had a great year.
yeah, I
Now,
mean, could they
the
draft
Eagles
him?
have 3 picks, Adam, so I can understand why some analysts would say, you know what, when you have 3 picks, you can kind of make a quote unquote luxury pick or an out of character pick. But as we sit here today, this is not from reporting. This is just a hunch. Um,
Logic.
I asked Howie at the conference, at his
Oh,
press conference, about the history of teams with 3 or more first round
oh
picks
yeah,
not being so great, and he acknowledged it. So
he wasn't
I'd be
happy with it.
surprised. I'd be surprised. Yeah, I know. And he acted like I was blaming him for it. I said it wasn't your picks, and you haven't had 3 first round picks in a year. But he's aware of it, and to me, as we sit here today, I'd be pretty surprised if the Eagles made 3 first round
I'm shocked.
selections.
I'm
Yeah, I
shocked.
think they're going to maneuver.
I too, yes. I think it's just that you could help yourself. Now it's easier said than done because when there's a cutoff. The thing that I want to find out before I get home is
Mm-hmm.
where do the GMs see the first round? Are there 12 legit first round picks? Or are there 15? They're usually, Bill Polian told us there was between 12 and 15. That's a number I've used.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be pretty accurate. So I would love to get a ballpark idea of if it's 13, is it 14?
Great idea. Yeah, we got to get that. That's good
Yeah,
stuff.
for where the Eagles are. So we'll do our best for you. We'll certainly get that as the weeks go by. But
Yeah,
no, it's a good question on mock drafts. Yeah, you're right. For the people who are watching and do mock drafts, you definitely have to take into account that just because a team signs a veteran free agent, well, if it's not a high end free agent, there's a decent chance that they'll draft someone who they think will be better than that guy over time.
good stuff. All right, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code ITB. If you do that, you bet just $1 on any NBA team, and you'll get $150 in free bets if that team wins. Promo code ITB at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. What do we got next?
All right. It's funny. I was always a big fan of this guy, but he turned out to be a disappointment. So we have a question from Michael Bertino. Have you guys discussed Eric Ebron as a veteran free agent? His months year back in Indy coincided with Sirianni's first year as a Colts coordinator. Yeah, it was. He had an unbelievable amount of red zone touchdowns. I think it might have been 14 or 15 without looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that year was my last pick in a fantasy draft, and people laughed at me like, "Why he stinks, Eric Ebron? He sucks." He was a disappointment with the Lions, but you know what?
Who isn't a disappointment with the Lions?
Yeah.
Other than like Calvin Johnson.
It's amazing to me. As long this kid, he was 20. I know he was 20 when he was drafted. He turned just 29 in April. Now he's had a bunch of injuries in his career. I don't get the sense that they're looking for the veteran free agent route. I do believe if they do anything, and I do believe they will, it'll be in the draft. They like a developmental backup between Goddard. I know Stolt did a nice job. He's a good story as a wide tight end.
Mm-hmm.
But they like, knowing the way that they think about tight end, they probably would want to upgrade. Yeah, do they have enough guys on the roster? Sure. Goddard, Stahl, Richard Rodgers was re-signed. Togiai and Tyree Jackson's coming off a torn ACL.
Mm-hmm.
You got 4 healthy ones. One guy's not. I would think they're going to add one through the draft.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that when you have Dallas Goedert, who's your number 1 tight end, and you have Richard Rodgers there, who is the veteran backup who can give you some snaps if he makes the team. But that's why he signed. He actually signed the extension, like the 1 year. So he should be back next year to compete for the spot. I don't know that there's just a use for them to just sign Ebron to have another veteran tight end. He's better than Richard Rodgers, but I mean, you just don't throw to the tight end on this team all that much. And he's not much of a blocker, if I recall, Ebron. So if the team has to...
Yeah,
right, just okay. If the team has to lean on the run again, I don't know if he's going to play. He would play a lot of snap. Again, that's what you have Richard Rodgers there for, and Jack Stoll will be in year 2. So I would think if they are going to bring in tight end, it would be through the draft and young and developmental, not veteran like Ebron.
Yep. That would be it for the questions I see here. And there's one more I'm going to save because we don't have the answer to it. So I'd rather just wait till we get the answer so we can answer it for you.
All right. Last few days of the combine, were you wowed by the 40 times by those wide receivers?
Well, it's a fast track. This is well known in the scouting community. It's too fast. Now, what some teams say they will adjust very slightly because it's too fast. They do this at some colleges where the guys run incredibly faster than normally would on a slower track or an average track.
Mm-hmm.
They always run fast here. You know, the point that Spielman made, and he clarified it. You know, the last 20 yards, but what it does, you know, how players finish to the 40.
Right.
That's important. You know, teams do look at that. By the way, the teams have a different term for that. That's why when Rick said it, I'm like, I wasn't sure what he's talking about, but I got a better explanation of it.
There you go.
But yeah, it is. Well, it's funny because you have to be careful. One thing on that, when NFL Network or whoever puts the times out, they're not always wrong, but some of them are wrong. The Chris Olave, I'm still around it being good, but it's not official. When it first comes out, it's never official. It can't be.
Right.
A couple hours later, it becomes official. But when you say, okay, here's our time, well, that's not official.
Right. There were some superhuman initial reports there before the actual times came in.
But he's still ran in the 4.3s, which is terrific.
Yeah, no, it's great.
His teammate Garrett Wilson's a higher graded receiver. But we'll go over that once. We'll certainly have some comments for our Monday show. Some of our observations from the combine in terms of the college stuff. We'll have obviously for agency Eagles news, which we're holding, information, intel, and all that stuff. But look forward to talking about that. And I hope everybody enjoyed the combine. Our other shows that we did. We dropped another Trey Thomas show, another Cosell show. Good stuff we got. And I know you guys wrote some stuff for the website.
Yep. And of course, Trey Thomas, Cosell will be doing more content next week as we move in past the combine and into the free agency. So that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds TV. Hope everybody has a great weekend. For Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Catch you on the next one.